Before streaming, before playlists, before Halloween was digital, fear came on tape. A small plastic shell, a magnetic ribbon, and a spinning reel carried the heartbeat of October. If you grew up in the late 70s, 80s, or early 90s, you probably remember the feeling. Dim light, the smell of pumpkin candles, a cassette deck humming softly in the corner. Press play, and the air itself would change. These were the Halloween sound cassettes. Eerie, theatrical, sometimes ridiculous, but they defined the soundtrack of a generation's haunted nights. The first screams. The 1970s beginning 1970s were the golden age of analog imagination. Before VHS took over, sound was the stage. In 1974, Walt Disney Records released chilling, thrilling sounds of the haunted house. It wasn't just a record. It was a theatrical experience in sound. A narrator guided listeners through creaking doors, ghostly wails, and mysterious footsteps, all created by Disney's legendary sound engineer, Jimmy McDonald, who had worked on Fantasia and Snow White. That record became the blueprint for everything that followed. By the late 70s. Dozens of small audio companies, Pickwick International, A&M, Hallmark, and Audio Fidelity, jumped in, creating budget-friendly Halloween cassettes for drugstores and supermarkets. Most sold for under $2. Their covers were neon orange or deep purple, with bold gothic fonts and clip art ghosts, an aesthetic born from pulp horror magazines and late-night radio dramas. These tapes weren't just for kids. They were for atmosphere. People used them at parties, haunted houses, or simply to make their homes feel haunted for the night. The 1980s. Halloween goes pop. Then came the 1980s, when Halloween went commercial, colorful, and louder than ever. The cassette had become the symbol of personal sound. Sony's Walkman, launched in 1979, made music portable, and by the mid-80s, it was everywhere. Halloween tapes were no longer just for stereos. They became soundtracks for trick-or-treating, theme parks, and even radio promotions. Retailers like Kmart, Woolworth, and Spencer's Gifts sold exclusive Halloween cassettes at checkout stands. Their names promised adventure, terror on tape, haunted house party, spooky sounds to creep by. Even major brands joined the fun. McDonald's Happy Meals in 1986 included small McDonaldland fun-to-learn Halloween tapes featuring songs and spooky stories. And let's not forget the boombox era. Portable stereos blasting spooky sound effects on suburban porches as trick-or-treaters approached. The combination of orange streetlights, fog machines, and looping ghost screams created the suburban haunted house aesthetic we still copy today. At the same time, horror was exploding in cinema. Halloween 1978, The Fog 1980, Poltergeist 1982. And these movies influenced the sound design of Halloween cassettes. Producers mimicked John Carpenter's minimalist synths, or echoed Vincent Price's theatrical narrations. Even if you couldn't afford a haunted attraction, a $3 cassette could turn your living room into one.
The craft of fear. Behind the curtain were the unsung artisans of fear, analog sound designers. In the days before Pro Tools or GarageBand, creating a haunted soundscape meant manual precision. Sound effects were recorded in small studios using reel-to-reel tape, razor blades, and sticky editing tape. Lightning, a crinkled aluminum sheet. Chains, real ones dragged across a basement floor. Ghost voices, actors whispering into echo chambers made from metal. Ducts. Sound designers like Ben Burt of Star Wars fame popularized these found sounds, and the Halloween hobbyists adopted the same tricks, many cassettes even reused. Public domain audio from old radio dramas like Lights Out, 1930s, or Inner Sanctum Mysteries. You might hear a reused shriek from a 1935 broadcast, or thunder recorded for a 1950s horror record. These ghostly hand-me-downs gave Halloween tapes a timeless, patchwork quality, one that modern digital horror can't replicate. The Halloween Party soundtrack. By the mid-80s, Halloween parties were cultural events. The rise of MTV and music video culture turned every holiday into a performance. Magazines like Better Homes and Gardens and Woman's Day published DIY haunted house guides, always recommending a Halloween sound cassette to set the mood. School carnivals and neighborhood parties used them as background loops. Radio stations would broadcast Halloween sound specials, remixing these tapes live on air. And for kids, the tapes were pure treasure, often played on Fisher-Price tape recorders, their orange buttons clicking as stories of the monster under the bed or the headless coachman filled the room. The strangeness of sound, why they worked. There's something poetic about how those sounds worked. A wolf's howl, a heartbeat, the creak of an attic stair. They were minimal, even crude, but our brains filled in the gaps. Psychologists say that when horror is auditory, not visual, the imagination takes over. That's why Halloween cassettes felt so real. Each listener created their own haunted world. In many ways, these tapes were the final echo of old-time radio horror. The era of Orson Welles' War of the Worlds, 1938, and Arch Oboler's Lights Out. They taught us that fear was most powerful when unseen. Behind the labels, cult classics and collectors. Today, collectors hunt for names like Sounds of Terror, 1975, Halloween Horrors, A&M Records, 1977, and Fright, 1983, Pickwick, The Most Beloved, Disney's Chilling Thrilling Sounds. Of course, reissued on cassette in 1979, vinyl in 1985, and even CD in the 90s. But hidden gems exist. Obscure regional releases from companies like Terror Tapes, Haunted Sound Labs, and even church groups that made Christian-friendly Halloween cassettes featuring moral ghost stories. Some covers were minimalist. Others looked like paperback horror novels, complete with dripping letters and terrified eyes. They captured the graphic design trends of the 80s perfectly. Neon, stencil fonts, airbrushed fog. Today, these visuals have become icons of retro horror aesthetics. The 1990s, digital ghosts and decline. By the 1990s, the cassette's reign was ending. Compact discs took over, promising pure digital sound. Companies like Hallmark, Gemini, and Polygram began reissuing their classic Halloween effects on CD. But it wasn't the same. Without the hiss, the warble, and the unpredictable imperfections, the magic faded. Still, some 1990s relics lingered, like Sounds of Halloween, 1993, marketed by Spencer's Gifts, which became a mall classic. Meanwhile, early internet forums began trading digitized tapes, the birth of Halloween nostalgia culture. And as the millennium approached, a new generation discovered these eerie recordings online, realizing that the analog ghosts had never truly died. Why they still haunt us today. In an age of perfect sound, people crave imperfection. That faint tape hiss. The warmth of magnetic hum. It reminds us of dim basements, vinyl masks, and childhood fears that were safe, simple, and shared. These cassettes are more than media. They are time machines, artifacts of a moment when imagination was louder than technology, when a dollar store tape could summon ghosts more real than CGI. The analog age may be gone, but every October collectors rewind the past, pressing play not just on a cassette, but on memory itself. If you listen closely, you can still hear them, in the hiss between sounds, in the spaces between screams, the ghosts of Halloween, still waiting to be heard. Before Halloween, there was Samhain. Watch the full Samhain video to capture roots of religion.